Hi there. So our presentation is The Dark Knight Rises in Inverts. We're measuring the cardiovascular effects on remaining in an inverted position. So originally we had our subjects in an assisted handstand. So they were fully inverted, much like Batman is here. But we had to change our experiment a little bit and ask them to do a downward dog position instead for their inverted position, just because we had a little bit of difficulties with our equipment, our ECG leads specifically, and getting clear data readings, so we had a much better go with this inverted position instead. So, our background. So, as we know, blood pressure measures the force exerted on artery walls by the blood as it travels through the circulatory system. It's a good indication of heart function and health. So we hypothesized that remaining in an inverted position will result in an elevated blood pressure and heart rate as the cardiovascular system compensates for a rise in pressure and circulatory demands, for example, against gravity. So we did ask 8 subjects to go from sitting, so our baseline, to that inverted position in downward dog, and then back up and sit in a chair just for recovery for varying time increments. We did 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and 90 seconds, respectively. So yeah, we measured those heart rate values with our ECG, blood pressure by listening for cough sounds, and then compared that blood pressure and heart rate in that inverted position to our baseline and our recovery. So yeah, our conditions were having a subject sit resting with their eyes closed. We measured their baseline, took those values. We then asked them to get into that downward dog position with their head below their heart. This was specifically important because it meant that that was in an inverted position. So then we took those measurements as well and then asked them to remain or to return back to a sitting position in a chair and take those measurements too. So with our results, I've got 2 graphs here. They both represent the mean measurements between all of our 8 subjects. We have our 30 seconds here and our 90 seconds here. We did do the 60-second graph as well, but it was pretty much just the middle of this, so we're just doing the 2 extremes because it shows a bigger difference and a little bit more of clear results for us. So yeah, as you can see in the 30 seconds, there's not much of a difference between resting inverted and recovery other than the little bit difference in that heart rate there. So this makes sense because our bodies are pretty good at going back to our homeostatic set points. So even after this insertion and this inversion, especially during recovery, our bodies did a pretty good job at just going back to what they're good at and remaining in their normal set point for our blood pressure. And the heart is a little bit elevated after exertion, but it still is going down, so not much here. In our 90 seconds, there's a different story though. So as you can see, the systolic and diastolic measurements are a little bit higher in that inverted position here, and our heart rate is definitely different compared to resting, inverted, and recovery. So we did see that clear difference there as well. So our results show that that short-term inversion caused a small temporary increase, but clear rises in heart rate. During recovery, blood pressure did return towards that baseline pretty quickly, but the heart rate stayed a little elevated, showing a lingering cardiac effect. So let's discuss this. So our data does support our hypothesis and shows that inversion causes a slight increase in blood pressure and heart rate, although it was lower than we predicted. That downward dog pose does cause muscle activity to increase, particularly in the arms, as the subject holds themselves up. And then that increased muscle activity causes vasoconstriction, increased heart rate, and an increase in blood pressure. That inversion also causes an increase in blood pressure by increasing the volume of blood in the head and chest and forcing the heart to work harder to circulate that blood throughout the whole body. We had a couple errors in this, specifically the stethoscope quality, and it was very difficult listening for those crock-off sounds, especially in a loud lab environment. We had a delay in marking the BP and biopack as well. Just we did a bit of a call and response with calling out those crock-off sounds and having somebody mark it on the biopack tech. And then we also had our different subject physiology, right? So we are all different college students drinking different amounts of caffeine, all stressed out a little bit, different levels of stress, and then also some of us had been to the gym before this, so a little different levels of exertion as well. So yeah, in the end, our data does support our hypothesis, even though it wasn't as much as we had hoped. The results suggest that longer periods of inversion would result in a larger increase in blood pressure and heart rate. It'd be pretty interesting to see what the results would look like after a longer period of remaining in that inverted position. And that'd be definitely something to look into in the future. But with our smaller time periods, we did still see that difference. So we do have evidence to suggest that those longer periods would have a greater effect. And yeah, I think that it's probable that Batman has a pretty good cardiologist and keeps a good eye on his blood pressure, eats healthy to just make sure that he's not getting hypertension, staying in those inverted positions for too long. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, and yeah.